It is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly of Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from. You will find us there. Um, Follow us on social media at Insert Name FC on Instagram, uh, Twitter, X, also known as X now, the Everything app. Uh, and Facebook. Also, check us out on YouTube. We usually break these episodes down into the shorter videos so you guys are able to digest it a little bit better. And of course, the full video version of this podcast is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel. And of course, the short videos, and the full video episode is also available on Golz TV, GLZ.tv. That's where you can go ahead and check it right there. It is totally free to subscribe. Also, if you guys want to see Eric Winalda's Unleashed over there, that's an exclusive Golz show. Make sure you guys check him out over there. But yeah, USA, terrible, 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 horrible performance in this CONCACAF Nations League. We'll definitely be talking about that in this episode, so don't worry about that. This episode also features MLS Onside episode 5 review with Jose Tellez of Golz TV. So you'll actually hear that first. We will not have headlines this episode, just because I feel like the Nations League discussion is probably going to be a little bit of a talking point, I guess. But yeah. So like I said, episode 5 review of MLS Onside. We're going to recap the CONCACAF Nations League. So we'll go ahead and break down the semifinals and also give you guys the recap of the final. Obviously, the U.S. men's national team March call-up is officially over, and we'll go ahead and share our thoughts on that one. Share my thoughts, I guess. Not there is no R here. It's just me today. So we'll talk about that. No players of the week because it is international break. Give you guys games to look forward to this coming weekend. And yeah, that's basically it, man. This is going to probably be, if you're a U.S. men's national team fan, it's probably going to be a long one. If you're not a U.S. men's national team, you're about to have a lot of fun. So, with all that being said, man, sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Obviously, we'll go right into the episode 5 recap of MLS Onside with Jose Tellez of Golz TV. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys, I completely forgot to mention who the dog of the month is. It's Amir Khan, equipment manager at McNeese State. Dude is just aura, so there's that. Congrats, guy. I think he's not going to NC State, by the way. That's a little American sports for you guys there.
Dub.
But obviously, MLS Onside, episode 5. Bit of a snoozer, Jose. We got Jose Tellez of Golz TV with us to talk about this episode. But yeah, a little bit of a snoozer, this one. I did talk about it last week that I am, not that I'm losing interest. Obviously, I'm committed to this MLS Onside series, but the fourth one was a little bit of a downer, but with a beautiful storyline. At least you had something to be drawn into. This one, I have no idea. I have
It
no
feels
idea.
it feels forced, like I don't know. Like,
I
and
feel
again, if
like
you haven't watched it, go
they
check it
weren't
out.
sure what they were gonna do. I think that they had initially an idea for what this story was gonna be about. Something happened where then they were like, okay, we need to kind of deviate and make a new storyline, and this storyline just seems like I don't know if is rushed the right word or just not finished.
Yeah, unfinished is a good word. I think, like, if I had to grade this episode, which we haven't done yet, we probably should have done that for some of the other episodes. But I would say it feels like, it's probably being generous. It feels like a 5 out of 10. In the sense that yeah, it feels unfinished. There weren't any deep or rich storylines to follow individually. whether it's amongst the players or bro, you're in New York. Like all you really have to do, right, is talk to the fans even for a little bit, right? New York probably as a market probably has some of the more um, you know, um outspoken fans. Well, probably just when it comes to footy in general in this country. And I feel like everything they did to capture the essence of the hell is real derby in Ohio, they did none of that for the Hudson River Derby in New York. It just didn't feel like anything I would look forward to if I was a new or casual fan. And that's everything from the setting of the scene for the rivalry all the way down into the individual player storylines. None of it for me was really that captivating. And it's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're gonna use another rivalry storyline, I feel like the Sporting Kansas City St. Louis rivalry was done a little bit better than this one.
Yeah.
But obviously, episode 5, Kings of New York. The title makes no sense to what the story is. Who runs NYC? A case is made in the Hudson River Derby. Derby's playoff debut. Our Red Bull New York's rising star John Tolkien, which that's a take. Feels the heat of the spotlight, and I say that because I think at this point John Tolkien is like established more now. It's
Yeah,
not
definitely.
You can't really say this kid's rising when he is kind of your face. Well, actually, not anymore because now he's in Germany. But okay, so the thing I did like initially was the story of New York City, right? Like New York City, it's the sports hub. I mean, all of the major leagues in the US is in New York's in the blueprint of all those major sports. Obviously, if it's MLB, you think of the Yankees and the Mets. You think of names like Babe Ruth, Derek Jeter, Mike Piazza. You got the Knicks and the Nets in basketball. You got the Giants and Jets in football. Maybe you don't talk about the Jets because they're terrible. But and then even hockey, Rangers, not, that's all I know. Rangers and Islanders. I don't know anything else about hockey. Don't
Yeah.
ask me questions about hockey. And then there's MLS, which is the Red Bull New York and NYCFC. But I'll also throw another team in here, Jose, because even though it's not MLS, but one of the most iconic, and I think most people will think about this team because of a certain influence of it, because the New York Cosmos,
Hmm.
which obviously had Pelé. But
NASL. Yep.
yeah, I mean I think a lot of people loved to get and I mean the New York Cosmos, the badge was cool, the kids were cool. Yeah, don't I'm not gonna lie, I thought about copping one, but with USL, if you were smart,
Yeah.
I'd be trying to bring that. I'm stealing New York's market with that one alone. Um, but in reality, with all these sports in New York, soccer is just simply not the big sport in New York. Which is crazy when you think of the whole Northeast region being the hub for soccer.
Yeah, I think I think again, this goes back into what I said before around what they could have done. Bro, even as B-roll, right? Like you know what I wanted to see? I don't know if anybody's ever seen this at home. I think they're called
Also, by the way, prime opportunity to have the Cooligans.
oh yeah, yeah, bro. In all honesty, you could have had any one of the New York-based creators featured in the opening 15, 20 minutes. Like any one of them, to be honest. It doesn't. I understand that there's a certain level of media trained professionals, right, that you want to have in a production this big from the lens of Apple TV and MLS. But bro, all those guys are going to tread the line. They're going to do what Maurice Edu did to tee up the conversation, what Paul Tenorio was doing, what Herc Gomez was doing as they were kind of trying to set the scene. But none of that gets me fucking going, bro. Get me going. I want to be bought in. I want to feel like, dude, I got to move to New York to get this type of rivalry. I don't have it here in Texas. I need it somewhere. But, bro, in all honesty, it seems so lukewarm that if I was a casual or if I didn't watch MLS currently, I'm like, bro, this whole league is fabricated. The whole league, even the rivalries, bro. They're trying to sell me on this, but they're doing a terrible job even at that. Bro, get some real fans, even if they're not media trained, to talk about why they love NYCFC, right? What was so special about the year 2021 when they hoisted that chip? What does it
They didn't
mean
even
to
talk about the trophy.
Yeah, bro, what does it mean as a Red Bulls fan to like be there for as long as you have, right? An MLS 1.0 club and still not hoist it. Hashtag FC Dallas. I've been there. But like, bro,
And he
like
jokes
all
about the index card of a banner. That
yeah,
it's like,
bro, none of that, bro. It's just like what are we doing? It's like, you know what, man? Let's phone it in. Let's just, let's kind of make sure we check all the boxes, so to speak, just to make sure fans understand what this rivalry is, and then hopefully they'll attach themselves to the players. But like again, you said it yourself, Tolkien not even there anymore, right? So even if you liked what you saw in the episode of Tolkien, he's not in MLS anymore. He's playing overseas. And look, Tavon Gray, I mean, Gray essentially cool. He's still there. Malachi Jones still there. It's just Cushing's not even there anymore, and he got a good little feature in this episode too. I'm sure Davi loved that. But like again, man, it's just there's so many pieces here that feel. If I was a New Yorker, bro, I'll be honest, it would feel like they
it
undersold this
it wasn't a
market.
good representation in New York. I
No.
liked the introduction. I liked the guys at the barber shop talk. I also love how the one soccer guy is rocking an Arsenal sweatshirt.
Yeah,
I was
they're
just
all
like,
talking regular sports, and he just chimes in with some David Beckham shit. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it's just like okay. But I love the reason why I like that conversation because you're talking about who personifies New York sports, right? They're all throwing the names. You heard Derek Jeter, you heard Lawrence Taylor, you heard Carmelo Anthony, and all those names. And I think that's another thing and I think they tried to kind of talk about it in this episode, which was the hometown kid, right? Almost every major sports team in New York has like their kid, their son of the team. When you think of the Yankees, obviously you think of Derek Jeter, New York's son, Derek Jeter can do no wrong.
Hmm.
Mid shortstop, if you ask me. It should have been A-Rod. But and then now currently with Aaron Judge, right? Now he's New York's son, the captain, blah blah blah, whatever crap. And so you're talking to, and they're kind of build this story about the hometown kid, and I think that was at least their idea of showing John Tolkien, who's no longer with Red Bull New York, and Tavon Gray. It won John Tolkien. I don't know where from New York he's from, but obviously it's been part of the system with New York and clearly part of the youth ranking, the youth clubs in New York as well, because obviously we find out that Tavon Gray and John Tolkien have played against each other
Hmm.
in clubs level, and obviously Tavon Green, kid from I believe the Bronx, very New York, especially the way he talked. But like you had two guys that literally grew up playing against each other, and literally that was it. That was all they said, and they went on with the rest of the episode. They really didn't really went that deep with that. I think that could have been the storyline a little bit, um, because once again, if you're going to, I think the hometown kid storyline would have been an interesting storyline if that was what they were going to do.
They should have. They honestly should have, bro. You remember the scene where Edelman's in the back of the car with Tolkien, and he says, "Oh, hey, it's your buddy, your favorite person," and you're thinking maybe they played together, and now it's kind of interesting, right? Friends being on opposite side of the rivalries, but that wasn't the case at all. They actually hate each other, and they grew up. Tolkien grew up with that team, and everyone's got that team, bro. I think if you grew up, playing against certain players, whether you're on a team with them later on in your career or not, like there's always that little bit of animosity. And I had those guys, bro. It happened twice to me. One time all through the youth system and then playing with them in the academy. And then there was another player, a striker that I used to guard every single time, all throughout my high school career. We hated each other and we were roommates the first year of college, got recruited by the same school. And so it was just like, again, like those types of things like that will get fans into this, right? It's like they teased us all the way up to that point, and then it's like boom, Malachi Jones, cool kids, came from Sierra Leone, all that stuff. That's a great story. I don't want to discount that, but you had a massive opportunity to go way deeper into what makes Tolkien versus Gray a potential rivalry, or how that played into the Hudson River Derby being as heated as it was last season. I remember everything from the two regular season matches all the way up until playoffs, and I feel like we just didn't get that, man. If like they just decided it wasn't a good idea anymore, and they pivoted to something brand new entirely with Malachi Jones.
No, exactly, and I think that was kind of like this is where I just think that the guys at Onside probably just had no idea what to do with this footage because the intro for this episode from last episode was talking about Malachi Jones, which then to me was like, oh, this is the Malachi Jones episode. Like this is where we're gonna learn about this guy. And I think I think this was the initial plan for MLS Onside. This was going to be about Malachi Jones, the kid from Sierra Leone. A very heartwarming story about how, obviously his father passed away. He was his all his siblings were adopted by this family in Tennessee. Um, Played at Lipscomb University. Um, I had to try to my best to not make that sound inappropriate. Um, he was drafted in 2024, eighth overall pick in the MLS draft. A lot of potential, I believe, younger than most your typical draft picks as well, because I think he was still in his like early 20s versus most guys being 22, 23, 24 around there. But obviously, story kind of gets ruined because he gets injured in against San Jose, I believe, gets a really rough injury, broken fibula. Um, didn't look great. And I think from there they were just like, crap, what do we do now? And so I think that was really the problem. But aside from all that, it just the story, the flow of this whole episode was weird. Even the discussions of the derbies was weird. Like it wasn't. It just like, oh yeah, they lost 5-1. They show the 2-1 game, but then they're like, oh yeah. We also lost five. We also beat them 5-1 this one game. So
Yep.
it was just weird. It was just weird in general.
Yeah, I agree, man. It was just again, it's not even the fact that they were like cutting from story to story without finishing it. It really wasn't that. It almost felt like they didn't do their homework. They ran out of footage, and it was time to pivot to the next topic, right? Like I think back to, and again, this was later in the season. I think this was like probably late summer, when Inter Miami came to the Bronx, right, to take on NYCFC, and you just see like the fans beating the shit out of that bus as it drove through. That's what you needed, bro. Like, if all else fails, just show what makes New York unlike any other market in the country with its sports fans. Everyone knows they're one of the most tortured fan bases in America. Show that. But even despite that, they're making it difficult for their opponent every single time. It's never going to be a cakewalk when you go to New York, and it should be taken to the next level with a derby. And again, from a number of perspectives, player storylines, the unfinished feel of the product, just all the pieces of the derby they missed. It just felt like they dropped the ball in a number of areas, bro. And I don't want to continue to complain about it all night, but it's just, man, again, MLS, it's already not the most exciting league for other fans across the world to get into. And if you're using this docuseries or this content to get into it, you're probably also, again, just a little more let down.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, like, why should I keep watching this series? Like I said last episode, I talked about it. Like, usually when I'm watching Hard Knocks at the halfway point, I kind of lose interest, and now I'm getting ready for football season. And I mean, MLS season, we're already like 5 matches in, so we're kind of getting that same feeling. But at the same time, like I said, I'm still wanting to see how this finishes out because I'm also a big fan of Drive to Survive. But this was definitely a huge disappointment. You gave it a 5. I would give it a much lower score because I don't feel like I came away with anything from this episode. Besides just John Tolkien is kind of a douche. But
I respect it though. I respect it. Like I think Edu said it best. Like he is, don't get me wrong, but he's like that guy that you would still like want to have on your
I
team
mean, he's a
100%.
New
I
Yorker.
would take him. Yeah.
He's a New Yorker. I mean, that's literally
I
just.
would take him on my team every day of the week, bro. Every day of the
I mean,
week.
no, yeah. I mean, all jokes aside, he's as New Yorker as possible. So, when it comes down to it, but I mean, yeah. Aside from that, NYCFC obviously wins the regular season, both the both matches of the regular season. But I mean, Red Bull New York gets the ultimate laugh, and I mean, obviously we all know how Red Bull New York ends their season, which was losing in the MLS Cup final. Um, you know, Jovic definitely had a say in that. But. Yeah, and it was cool because but they didn't even hype up that this is the first Hudson River Derby in the playoffs. Like it was like, oh yeah, this is the first Hudson River Derby in the playoffs. That was literally all they
They
said.
mentioned it one time on the Apple TV desk, right? Where it was like, oh, this is the first one. What can we expect? They talked about it for 30 seconds and they moved on. That's what I'm saying. They could have even asked the fans, brought in some of that perspective.
Just in general, this year should have just been like just the Hudson River. This episode could have just been the Hudson River Derby, and just have the interactions of the fans. Like this could have been the first fan specific episode, and I think that that would have been much better than what all this was.
They try to make it too pretty. You know what I mean? Like they try to make it too produced, if that makes sense. And there's just some like with derbies, nothing, any rivalry, doesn't matter what the sport is, no one will be able to give you the history of it, to react to it, or just show pure emotion with it than the fans. No one will ever, there isn't a single pundit in this world who has more knowledge on a local rivalry than the fans that live in that community do. There's just not a single one. I refuse to believe that. So in that moment, it just feels very naive that like Onside and Apple TV didn't push to get more reactions directly from the fans, especially knowing what we know about NYCFC as a fan base, Red Bulls New York as a fan base. And dude, even building up the history of the two teams, like what do we know about Red Bulls? Did they talk anything about the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars? Did they mention any of the star power that has come through Red Bull New York? Right? The Rafa Marquez's of the world, the Thierry Henrys, the Dax McCartys. Go further
I
back.
mean,
The Clint
how did
Mathesons of the
the
world.
how the Red Bull deal come to be? Like
Yeah. Bro,
nothing.
just none of that history. Like none. Like it's just like, hey, you know what? Not really important, guys. Just get ready for these three games that we're gonna brush over really fast in 35 minutes. Like it just again, man, it just so much of it was done poorly, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'll say one thing also about this episode was yeah, I think we really need to stop saying New York is either red or blue because there's a that colors affiliate those colors are affiliated to something that could if you in context, especially in the setting, if you just randomly just were in the streets of Brooklyn and you just yelled out New York is blue, I'm sure I'm sure nothing.
Tear the state of the city apart, bro.
Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah.
burn it down.
Just relax, cut. That's all I gotta say, because that is a
Yeah.
those are fighting
I
words.
choose not to say color like, whatever. Right? I get the sentiment, you see it in cities, bigger cities overseas or whatever, London is red or blue, whatever. I get it. It's just like, yeah, New York's probably the last place I probably want to do that.
New
I won't do
York.
it. I won't do it in LA either, although there isn't a red and blue distinction. It's like black and gold versus white and gold, but like still, it's just, yeah, no shot.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for you and me, Jose, one, my color's orange. There's no one will be that bold to pick an orange color to be their color. But and then I
Facts.
mean, if you were to say Texas is red, I mean, to be fair, Texas is very much red.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And to be fair, yeah, politically it is extremely red. So yeah, there's no dividing line here. But yeah, bro, there's just when they say that, I understand, and you can have the debate back and forth, like, oh, Red Bulls have the historical 1v1 against NYCFC, but NYCFC have a chip. Again, even that point, they didn't pick that apart, right? They didn't ask more fans, hey, which one really is it, right? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel? Like, take the NFL, for example. I guarantee you, like you said it before, and we all know, Jets suck. At the end of the day, though, asking Jets fans, asking Giants fans which fan base is bigger or more prominent in New York, I bet you anything it's still a tug of war, right? Like, just give us something to and I don't know, give us something to hang on to so that we're invested in going to watch these two teams play after we watch this episode. But there was none of that. There was none of that. It was so focused on the individual players. And the crazy part about that is Onside must have been kicking themselves. Tolkien left. So now, even if you were invested in how cocky, arrogant, how much of a douchebag, Tolkien may have seemed, I didn't think that he was. I actually thought I want this guy on my team 100%. But at the same time, like you can't even watch him in MLS anymore. The guy's literally overseas now. So I don't know, man. Dropped the ball in a number of ways.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even with the Malachi Jones story, which is a really great story, that honestly, like just when as talking about this more and more now, there's literally like four episodes in just this one episode alone
Yeah.
that it could have been done so much better. A fan perspective on New York's rise as far as soccer goes. Red Bull New York and NYCFC, how they feel about each other, how they feel about the Hudson River Derby. The fact that there was the first ever Hudson River Derby in the playoffs, in its history. Malachi Jones, the hometown kid narrative. Like you literally have multiple episodes in this one episode that you once again you didn't get. I don't feel like I got like an ending to anything. There was no proper ending to any of these storylines at all.
Yeah.
Like
It even with Malachi Jones, bro, like all we saw was that he got injured, which by the way, dude, he got absolutely destroyed. I mean, like that. Who's the keeper? I can't remember the keeper off the top of my head. Um, but bro got wrecked. I mean, like legitimately an American football tackle in a soccer game. I mean, obviously the lower part of his body. It wasn't like he got form tackled on the field, but like legitimately his legs completely taken out, breaks his tibia. And like you saw the tiniest bit of the recovery process, bro. Not even the recovery. The guy was literally just like moving around a tiny little ball on the floor in his room, and like that's all you saw. And then you saw him at the game, in the playoff game when they played against the Red Bulls, and he was kind of let down. And that's really it. I'm like, dude, what is this? Like, what was the point of including it if you're not even gonna make us invested in this player as an individual, right?
I wanted to hear him FaceTime his family about that he was getting the start. We didn't
Yeah,
get that. We just got him having a conversation with his brother.
light
And
audio. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's I'm like, and he talked about he's like, yeah, like the first people I usually call is my family, and I'm like, I would have loved to have seen. I mean, all of them are very much older now, so I don't think that they're all living still in Tennessee, but at least like FaceTiming his parents, like we didn't get that. We didn't get that at all, and so. Yeah, that was kind of a flop. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast here to tell you guys about Canada. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canadips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. The whole John Tolkien, Tavon Gray thing, nothing really much after that. I think after Red Bull New York won, it just became like camera at John Tolkien because he's right now talking crap to the NYCFC fans. And so like yeah, nothing. It was really
yeah.
disappointing. I feel like this was a good opportunity to get Thierry Henry in here and share his perspective of Red Bull New York, being someone that has played for that club and has had some good runs with them. Unfortunately, no championships from it, but
Yeah. Bro,
um,
no BWP, no Bradley Wright Phillips. Dude, he's
and he
one of the
works
most
there.
and he works for Apple TV. He's one of the most media trained former players in that whole group, and no opinion from him on this. Like again, bro, it's just and when they put the final cuts together, I want to know who greenlit this episode. Just like, you know what? Yep, I like it. I'm invested in this rivalry now. It's going to put it out there. Like, I don't
I
know,
would
man.
also say it would have been interesting to bring in David Villa, but I know that's kind of a conflicting thing, especially after we found out things that happened behind the scenes with near NYCFC. But
Yeah, but there's still players you could have brought in, bro. 100%, right? Like just somebody. And again, somebody who can just make it seem like again, maybe Emil Forsberg feels this way. I'm not really sure, right? But to get his take on like, hey, what did those 3 matches feel like? Like what did the first derby match feel like when you're coming from a part of the world where local derbies are everything? Did this one live up to the hype? We never got any of that. Like it I don't know. It actually pisses me off a little bit.
yeah, it's unfortunate, and the next episode is going to be about the transfer window, which like I'm kind of confused now because I'm like, is it because you have Gabby Peck and Paintsel, right? They show
Yeah.
those guys, and then obviously Luis Suarez as well. But it's just like, okay, so is it the initial transfer window? Because then you start talking about Giroud, who that's a summer transfer window. So I'm like, what transfer window are we talking about here?
I think it's summer. I think it's summer, and I think personally. So I know what you're talking about with like the transfer window vibes. I think though they're just using that as a way to like we'll probably get some light education, right, for those fans who are not familiar with how MLS transfer rules work prior to the 2025 season because they've changed a little bit. I think that there's a little bit of education on it. It's like, hey, if you thought it works the way the rest of the world does, it doesn't. Here's how it works, and then they're gonna spotlight El Tráfico.
I think
LAFC's transfers and how the Galaxy felt about them.
I think also we're gonna get the answers to, and obviously this is, I know right now that's not a player that you're thrilled to at least see right now, but the whole, how did a team that was the front runner essentially because of the discovery rights of Marco Rose going to Charlotte FC, which in hindsight that seems that would have made more sense now when you think about it, versus then him ended up going to the LA Galaxy.
Yeah. Um, by the way, Charlotte has to be super happy with that deal, right? I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
they dodged the bullet.
that was a huge W for Charlotte. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably get some of that too. Because again, I think what they're trying to do in this next episode is like, I think Giroud's gonna have a massive spotlight on him. I think Michael Royce may have a good size spotlight on him as well. And it's like, oh, the start of look what Messi did. All these big stars are coming over now. I think it's gonna be like that type of feel where we got a little bit of that with like Ricky Puig, former Barcelona player, coming to lead LA Galaxy, that type of vibe. I can see some of that here. We'll get their honest takes on what it's like to live in America, to be a part of the league. But I hope it's a massive swing in the opposite direction from this NYCFC episode. Oh, sorry, from the Hudson River Derby episode, the Kings of New York. Again, with that type of a title, you have to deliver. I want to get a real New Yorker's opinion. Like no shit, no bullshit. If you're a New Yorker listening and you haven't watched it, go watch that episode of Onside, episode number 5, The Kings of New York, and tell me if that represents what you think New York, not even just sports, but New York soccer stands for. Because I don't think so. I think they did you guys a massive injustice. But this episode 6 has to be a complete banger just to save what we saw in episode 5.
Yeah. Episode 5 definitely, like I said, now belongs on the bottom of when it comes to these episodes. I think at the end we'll do like
Ooh, a ranking would be good.
a ranking of the episodes and to see where we stand along with that. But
Lit.
yeah, this was a massive flop for me. This was
Is it
very
the worst one? Is
unorganized.
it the worst one so far?
It has to be. It has to
Yeah,
be. I think. I mean, I by default it would have been last episode with just because I feel like Kansas City and St. Louis, I just wasn't really that interested in that rivalry. But the
fair.
Tim Parker storyline was the really what kept me in it. This one, I think I don't know how quick I was to looking at TikTok when this was going on.
Yeah, bro, I was literally. I remember a few days ago when I watched it. I was like eating lunch. I was like, let me just sit down and watch this. Let me just like, not no phone around me. I'm just gonna eat, watch. And yeah, bro, like I thought it was gonna get juicy. I thought it was gonna get really good when Edelman and Tolkien were talking in the back of the car. I was like, all right, bro, rivalry. Him, Tavon Gray, they hate each other. Let's get it.
You mean you tell me you can't get any clips from them playing back in the day?
That's what I'm saying, bro. Just something. And Tolkien even said everybody hated that team. Everybody hated playing against them. They're kind of dirty. Like, bro, great. I know what that's like. I know how it's like to play against those players and to play with them at some point throughout your career. None of it. None of it,
Yeah.
man. Even Tolkien has to be pissed about this episode. There's no way he wasn't.
This was just it was very much you just were teased because
Yeah.
you're waiting for the all right, show it, and it's like no. It's like no. We're not. I'm a, it's crazy that I was more excited about Sporting Kansas City's locker room than I am about this.
Bro,
Uh,
facts. Bro, facts. Unfortunately, with this episode, we'll never get that time back. Those 35 minutes are gone forever. But yeah, man, it's just again, I don't want to spend this whole episode like I'm just bitching nonstop. But at the end of the day, man, the series so far, it's like it started off on a great high note. And for the first 3 episodes, probably kept that same bar of quality. I agree with you on episode 4. It's like especially if you weren't invested in the type of athlete or player personality wise that Tim Parker is, then like the rest of it's like, oh my God, whatever. Especially if you don't live in the Midwest, you don't understand that type of rivalry. But this one has plunged even further. And so, man, yeah, the LAFC episode has to be an absolute banger.
yeah, it has to. I mean, as far as looks goes, it's definitely gonna win it there. But I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be intrigued because obviously this is like the cool strategy of the whole general. People get to learn what a general manager does.
Hmm
I think that's kind of one of the things. Like I think, um, it's kind of when you talk about Hard Knocks, right? When you have like the episode where the GM's on the phone trying to get this trade done with this team or getting ready for draft day and all that stuff. Like you're like, is this how it works? Like this is how they do it? Like they, it's
Uh,
like you're kind of that's kind of like where you get to see the behind the scenes. And obviously, if you're a New York fan, you're probably very much pissed off at that Hard Knocks where the Giants guys were talking about how they don't need Saquon Barkley, and obviously that aged super well.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure he's happy about that episode too. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, even again with the Malachi Jones story, what that was like to draft him. What went into that process, right?
yeah,
What did you
we
like about him in college? And keep in mind, this is a league where we don't see that many players from the college ranks actually have tremendous impact in the pros, right? Because it's not like other leagues where you're getting the very best, next best available prospects into your organization. This is a situation where you're hoping it works out, but it probably won't. Like that's what college soccer has kind of been for MLS up to this point. They've had some prospects work out that have been drafted, but many of them don't because the disparity in levels is too big. And so if Malachi Jones worked out, then great. Show me some college highlights. What was he doing? Why did you guys draft him? Let's talk to the GM a little bit. Maybe some footage of him getting drafted, right? Like, I mean, hell, footage of when he was playing as a kid. Like, what makes him this great local talent that's gonna almost force other younger players in the New York, metro area to want to be on that same path? Like, I just feel like they didn't ask themselves any of
guys
these
didn't even
questions.
interview anybody from the family of Malachi Jones. Like you didn't ask their parents, what was it about that family that you were like, we need to get these kids a home, like, and once again, such a beautiful story about how these kids they lost their dad over there in Sierra Leone and were orphans, and they all they had was each other, and then this family comes in. We don't know how all that happened, and they come in, they find their new home in Tennessee, like, and we don't get that storyline either. We don't get his journey as he progressed as a player, how his support system was, which I'm sure was a great support system because of a family, but still, like we didn't get that. If we're we talked about last episode being a cool family episode. This was possibly another great like Dominic Toretto will be crying right now. If you be watching the back
Yeah.
to back family stuff.
Yeah, no shit, man. That's what I'm saying, right? I think without talking in circles, it's just it felt like you said, like being in a movie theater and we caught four trailers of things that are dropping next year all at the same time. Right? That's
Yeah,
basically what we got. That's what this episode was. It felt like they did maybe record that footage and just decided the episode was too long and they couldn't include it, or something along those lines. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, but yeah, hopefully there is a path to them understanding that. Because while the episode itself was pretty decently produced, I guess you could say, right, like the level of access that we kind of got for the most part, um, you know, the I guess finding a way to fast track from the first derby of the season all the way to the one at the end in playoffs. Like I can see the bones of what they're trying to put together, but the rest of the execution just wasn't there.
yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, that's episode 5. Wasn't great, uh, but that is episode 5.
I feel like we for anybody who's tuning in, like, hey, I haven't watched it, but now I'm definitely not going to watch it. I mean, look, let us know for yourselves, man. Like at the end of the day, like if you thought it was good, I really want to know why. I promise I'm not trying to just like absolutely, shit on this episode. I mean, it was bad, but at the same time, it's also in comparison to the rest of the episodes that have been pretty good up to this point. So yeah, just let us know what you think, man. I don't want to make it seem like we're just all doom and gloom over here.
No, yeah, for sure. And I mean, this episode, it's not like it's going to be depressing at all. It's not like, U.S. soccer did anything this past weekend
What a week.
to piss
What
me
a
off.
week.
But, yeah, obviously, Jose, thank you for coming on. It's awesome that we're doing this series together. Um, but yeah, tell us what's going on in goals.
Yeah, man. Big week. Kind of alluding to what you just mentioned about U.S. soccer, kind of the state of things. Eric Winaldo, for those who don't know, has a show on Golz TV called Unleashed, and man, he had a rant that dropped on social media this past week, right after
Loved
the
every
opening
minute of
loss
it.
to Panama. Yeah, he sent that to me and asked me if it was okay to post it uh, beforehand, which I thought that was awesome. Like, I appreciate that. But I was like, no, man, do what you want. Like, I don't ever want to censor that man. And I think he's been so fun to work with. But guys, by the time this show airs, the latest episode of Unleashed will also have just aired on Golz TV, both on platform, which is golz.tv, and our YouTube channel. So if you guys want to check that out, if and what's cool about this episode is the first time Eric is actually talking directly to fans in the episode. He is what I mean by that is he's actually bringing up some popular comments from the previous videos and episodes and reacting to them, answering them as part of this next upcoming episode. So if you guys want to be a part of it, if you want some of your comments or your questions read on air from the studio as part of these recordings, I mean, guys, tune in, engage, let us know what you love about the show, what you don't love about it. Eric's having a lot of fun with it, and hopefully we can keep delivering this high quality content over a long period of time. But again, just let us know how we're doing. Outside of that, Hector, I appreciate it, bro, as always.
Yeah, man, always, always. All right, we're gonna. This is actually different than how we did this episode because you're actually gonna start this with this episode, with this on the episode. And now we're gonna segue over to recapping the Nations League, and then you'll hear me complain about the U.S. men's national team. But congratulations to Mexico, the only team that honestly, on the scale of teams that actually gave a crap about this tournament, Panama actually goes to be number one, but it is Mexico that isn't. I gotta ask because I asked many of my friends that are fans of L3. I know that you're kind of like a combination of both,
Yeah.
but they hated this call up for Mexico.
I hated it. I hated it. I'm not gonna lie. I shit on the midfield the minute that the lineup the roster was announced.
see
It's
it.
just
And I said that, and but I've said it countless times too. Like, hey, it doesn't matter how bad this call up is, they still make it far in these competitions. Obviously, this is a four-team tournament, but still, like they still are able to get maybe semifinal or better. You know,
Mhm.
despite the claim of it being a terrible roster.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I don't know who to like credit. I don't know if this was like an act of will from the players' perspectives and like because again, I think he played again. I think they played pretty good. It's not like they played lights out. It's like they had the tournament of their lives. They played pretty good. They did enough against Canada, and I thought that for at least 75% of the game, they were up to the level of Panama, if not better. So, like, I mean, surpassed my expectations. I don't know if it's a will, like an act of will from the players. They just stepped up when the moment demanded it, or if it was the manager, Aguirre, finding a way, right, to prove the haters, the fans, the doubters, myself included, wrong. But I was criticizing him. I did not I didn't know if it was his preference or if it's just competitively the pool of players we had like access to or at his disposal for right now. But I was wrong, and a lot of us were wrong in terms of three fans who wanted to see this team be competitive. I thought they were legitimately going to do what the U.S. did, which was lose both games. I legitimately thought that was going to happen, and it didn't. But a lot of that is also thanks to just Raul being in the form, not of his of just right now, but I would say of his career. Like I
Probably one of the
haven't.
greatest bounce backs
Oh,
for any
by
player,
far, bro.
and
I'll be
very
honest.
much deserving, very much deserving of this bounce back.
The first like year plus after his head injury, we didn't see anything close to this. I thought Raul was finished. I was like, that's it. I mean, like it's unfortunate. It's a cautionary tale, but like that crazy head injury is going to be the reason why we never get to see like the ceiling. And bro, what he's doing right now, dude, the free kick he scored, my God, man. I mean, he is just quite literally in the form of his life, and I'm here for every minute of it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, you'll get to hear my thoughts on Nations League, and then also hear me complain about how embarrassing this U.S. men's national team was this week. But yeah, enjoy that.
Fight and win!
All right, CONCACAF. Okay, just making sure the mic's on. CONCACAF Nations League. It is over. Look, I'm gonna just start this off with simple as this. I don't care if you don't view the Nations League as a respectable tournament, whether it's the CONCACAF version, whether it's the UEFA version. It is a tournament. It is something to win. There's something at stake here. So, with that being said, I hope teams take this seriously. That's all I'm going to say. That's my TED Talk for that brief point. This is a tournament that nonetheless, whether you like it or not, is a thing. And you need to either suck it up or enjoy this tournament because it is another opportunity to have competitive matches. This is another opportunity to win some silverware out of it. So that's all I have to say. Now, the semifinal recaps. So Panama beat USA 1-0. USA had 67% of the possession. USA also outshot Panama 12-3, had 5 shots on target to Panama's 1 shot on target, obviously led to the goal, which was from Waterman, who ended up scoring the winner in stoppage time and near the end of the game, which had the all-time moment where he ran up to Thierry Henry and gave him a hug and told him how that's his idol. Creating a very cool, wholesome moment of this is why you love the game kind of stuff. And before people are starting to say, like, oh, USA should have beat this Panama team, they probably should have, but they didn't at the end of the day. And you're going to hear my rant about the U.S. men's national team because I actually recorded that before this one because obviously I'm not. Anyways, you'll hear my rant. But you can say all the things you want, but at the end of the day, Panama came in with the right strategy on how to defend against this U.S. men's national team attack that, frankly, was just very underwhelming. While they did have moments, yes, there was a opportunity for Josh Sargent, hit the post, hit the sidebar, which take that for what you want. And then obviously you also had another goal that would have been a really good goal for Josh Sargent, but unfortunately was offside by Timothy Weah. But at all the end, excuses nonetheless, Panama came with the right strategy. They defended very well, and when they had their opportunity to exploit a U.S. screw-up, they pounced on it and got the winner. You can say whatever you want about Matt Turner not being in a good position to even remotely make the stop. This goes back to the whole thing. I mean, this tournament needs to be taken seriously, and this was the sum of it all. You have the U.S. that clearly did not give a flying fuck. Sorry, Kelsey. I'm dropping an F-bomb today. You have USA giving not a flying fuck about this tournament versus a team like Panama who definitely much cared about this tournament and took it seriously. And you can say all those things like, oh, the injuries and blah, blah, blah. But once again, if we're talking about on paper, the U.S. was very much the better team on paper. I know that everyone's tired of hearing this is the most talented roster that the U.S. has ever had. And it is true. This is the most individually talented roster the U.S. has had in a long time. But they're not a better team. I will gladly put the 2014 U.S. men's national team over this team. I will gladly see the likes of Clint Dempsey and Josie Altidore and a young John Brooks and all those things. I'll put Kyle Beckerman. That 2014 team would beat the brakes off of this USA team because they put in effort. They cared about the competitions. That's a team that cared about playing in CONCACAF. If this CONCACAF Nations League thing was a thing, they would give a crap about playing in that tournament. Regardless of how they felt, it is still something that needs to be played for and an opportunity to showcase what the U.S. can do. And yeah, if you're one of those people that loves pouncing on the U.S. men's national team supporters, this is the time to make fun of everybody, point and laugh at the USA because they did not take this tournament seriously. And for that, you're going to be made fun of. You're going to have memes made of you because you couldn't beat a team like Panama. Now, on the flip side, Panama has gotten better over the years, has gotten better and better to the point where they're now in the conversation as one of the better, probably I would say the best team from Central America. Like, it's no longer the days of Costa Rica. It is now Panama. There was a time in CONCACAF when it was USA, I'll actually put a proper ranking, Mexico, USA, and Costa Rica. Those were the 3 top teams in CONCACAF. You now have Canada. Flip over to now. Now you have Canada. I will put Canada right now. And actually, no. Right now, actually, in hindsight, Mexico, Canada, USA. Actually, you might honestly, I might even put Panama. Panama over USA and USA now. Those are the 4 teams right now in CONCACAF. I wouldn't argue with anybody else. Maybe you can argue with me, but right now, Panama has proven to be better. They have proven that they can put up a good fight. And, I mean, if you want to think about that Copa America, Canada and Panama were the ones that better represented CONCACAF than Mexico and USA did. So, say what you want to say about Panama. Yes, on paper, maybe they shouldn't be beating the USA. Yes, at the end of the day, they don't have the same infrastructure as the US does. Yes, all those things. But they came in and they beat the US. They didn't beat them through any BS. They beat them outright. So, say what you want. I as someone that has ties to Central America, I'm really proud of this Panama team. I would love it to be El Salvador, but I'm really proud of this Panama team because once again, they have gotten better over the years, and now they are definitely in the conversation as one of the better teams in CONCACAF. So, I mean, saying we should beat this team, like, we can't say that anymore. You can't be saying we should be beating Panama because now this is the 3rd time in a competitive setting that Panama has gotten the better of the U.S. So there is no conversation anymore. Panama is in this conversation now for CONCACAF. Point blank. And maybe I'm a little biased because I have Central American ties, but, I'm also American, and I'm going to be critical about this U.S. team because, once again, they didn't care. They didn't care enough to put in effort and finish this team off. They had ample opportunities to put Panama out of reach, and they just couldn't finish it. And that's why Panama moves on to the final. Simply put as that. And then in the other game, Mexico beat Canada 2-0. Look, I heard it from everybody. I have a lot of friends that are Mexican. I obviously grew up in Texas, so I have a lot of Mexican friends. And they did not like this roster. They did not like the roster that Mexico presented. To be fair, though, Mexico has been very much overwhelming in recent years. It goes all the way back to a lot of conversations that they've had about the Mexican national team. But I will tell you one thing about Mexico. They will be damned to look bad in the CONCACAF competition. Because, say what you want, man. In Gold Cup, even with the B teams, Mexico plays with pride. They're still going to they are not going to be beaten by a CONCACAF nation. Very rarely that they will. And look, say what you want about Canada. Yes, they are gotten better. Yes, they are in the conversation as one of the better nations in CONCACAF now. No more the days of them being the underdog. They are no longer the underdog in any CONCACAF conversation anymore. But Mexico is going to once again say, hey, you're still not at our level. You're still not at our level. Mexico is still the top dogs of CONCACAF. They're still the standard of CONCACAF. And they showed that outright. Now, in this game, Mexico beat Canada 2-0. Canada had 58% of possession. Canada also outshot Mexico 11-8, but Mexico had more shots on target 3-1. The goals came from Raul Jimenez, who scored in the first minute, and then in the 75th minute. Once again, I said it, Canada, if they want to build this narrative that they are now the best team in CONCACAF, they got to start winning some tournaments. This was a competition that they needed to start winning. Mexico being quote unquote down bad. A down bad Mexico beat you handedly. So that proves it's not that it proves my point to some extent because once again, if Canada wants to be very much put in this conversation of why people don't really respect Canada too much as far as in the football in CONCACAF perspective. Yes, you have players that are standouts like Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies. We've mentioned that many times before. But if you're not able to get silverware, then you're going to be still viewed as not the top team in CONCACAF. Even winning CONCACAF in World Cup qualifiers, that was great for y'all. That was a great moment for you guys. But once again, you guys haven't won a Gold Cup in a long time. And obviously this tournament's only 4 years old, but you were at a final and you also got pretty beat by the U.S. on that one. So it is what it is, man. But Mexico, once again, in CONCACAF competitions, they're going to be solid. They're going to put it in the back of the net. It also helps that it was in LA, because in LA it is very much dominated by Mexican fans. So that also helps in their favor. So it was basically a home match for Mexico. Honestly, man, if there's a game in the U.S. and it's the Mexican national team and you do it in California or even in the southern part of the U.S., whether it's Arizona or Texas or even Chicago, even though Chicago's not south, but Chicago, these are very strong Mexican markets. If CONCACAF's goal was to give U.S. some sort of home field advantage, they should have probably done it in Columbus, Ohio, somewhere where the football, at least there's more U.S. soccer fans. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a tough thing to predict, because at the end of the day, there's no fan base, and I stand by this comment. There is no fan base that travels harder than Mexico. Mexico will go to where Mexico's playing. They will go to wherever they'll make that a home field advantage. We've seen it numerous times in World Cups where the presence of Mexico fans are very much prevalent amongst everybody. So I just want to point that out. That I kind of, at the same time, like, it doesn't matter where you put this tournament in, whether you put it in Canada, whether you put it in Central America, whether it's in South America, Mexico's going to show up. You can put this in Antarctica. Mexico's going to show up. Just point blank. That's literally my argument for that. Mexico is going to show up for Mexico. They are a very loyal, a very proud fan base, and that's really really commendable. I love that about Mexico. Yes, I know the stupid chants, but you can't tell me there's a fan base that's more passionate, more just strong, united than the Mexico fan base. But that is true. But yeah, Mexico handles business. Raul Jimenez, like, I'm going to talk about Raul Jimenez in a bit, but yes, Raul Jimenez, man, solid performance for him. All right, and the final, Mexico beats Panama 2-1. And honestly, if you watch this game and you were just like, oh, of course Mexico was going to win, this game was really good. I thought, once again, Panama coming in with the game plan that they were just going to absorb, and hopefully take their opportunities. At one point, they kind of had to start taking some possessions because they needed to make a push, especially after a very dumb mistake. But anyways, Panama had 53% of the possession. Mexico outshot Panama 15-8, and also on shots on target with 5-4. The goals came in the 8th minute mark by Raul Jimenez off of I believe it was a cross or a corner, but I think it was a cross. Raul Jimenez header. And then in the final minutes and before halftime, Coco Carrasquilla puts in a penalty, very costly penalty from, I believe it was Johan Vasquez that caused the penalty. But yeah, they say 1-1. It was a very tight game. It felt like it was just going to come down to just a very, very, it was going to come down to who messes up, who makes the mistake. And unfortunately, it was Panama that made the mistake. It was a handball by, I believe it was Mosquera. I think it was Mosquera. No. A Panamanian player obviously gets a handball. Cordoba. I think it was Cordoba. Anyways, gets a handball, causes a penalty. Obviously, then Raul Jimenez goes to the spot, takes it, scores his 4th goal of the competition. Which that goal has Raul Jimenez now passing Cuauhtemoc Blanco in Mexico's all-time goal scoring list, which was obviously Raul Jimenez was once 4th place. Now he's 3rd in the all-time goal scoring for Mexico. Ahead of him in 2nd place is Borghetti, and in 1st place is Chicharito Hernandez. So I'm gonna take this time to talk about Raul Jimenez, because, well, yes, I'm not a fan of Mexico. I'm not. I'm Salvadorian, and also I'm American. But Raul Jimenez was one of those players that I just was like, this guy is for real. And so I've praised many Mexican players, so don't think that I don't do this. But I was really like, when he made his move to, I believe it was Atletico Madrid, I thought that was a big move for him, and I thought that I was interested to see how all that will transpire for him. Eventually he goes to Premier League, I believe, for Wolves, and yeah, just keeps being a consistent player. I've just been a big fan of his. Unfortunately, he did have a very almost a very scary injury, and you're worried about him. You're like, how is he going to recover? And obviously, in the meantime, Mexico is just struggling to find a nine after Chicharito. The clear heir apparent was Raul Jimenez, but obviously with that injury, a lot of skepticism came into play, and everyone just finding that next nine for Mexico. And now, obviously, at that point too, Raul Jimenez is getting up there in age. He's not the young player anymore. Obviously you have the Anthony Martin glazing that happened for him. And then obviously then came Santi Jimenez, who, did his thing with Cruz Azul. Now is playing, was at Feyenoord, and now playing for AC Milan, being viewed as the heir apparent to be the next Mexico nine. And unfortunately hasn't necessarily lived up to the billing in some sense. Obviously he's still young, but still hasn't lived up to the billing. But Raul Jimenez kind of had this renaissance since moving to Fulham, and you're happy to see that. Whether you don't root for Mexico or not, I think Raul Jimenez, his bounce back is something to be speaking of, because this guy went from not in the conversation to look what he's doing, man. This guy is still much for real. To the point where now Mexico feels like they have their nine, and that's great. And I mean, like I said, passed up Cuauhtemoc Blanco, big name, right? Cuauhtemoc Blanco, and he's not that far away from passing to be the all-time goal scorer for Mexico. Few more call-ups, if he comes up for Gold Cup, it's not outside the possibility. Now, not only just Gold Cup, but then also, next year is the World Cup. They're gonna have some matches in Mexico. Raul Jimenez can very much pass up Chicharito, and I think a lot of people would be excited for that, just to be the cherry on top of what is this amazing comeback for Raul Jimenez. And then on top of that, man, Mexico lift their first Nations League title. Like I said, man, when it comes to the whole thing where I think this crazy thing about this current U.S. generation where they feel like CONCACAF is beneath them. Mexico has never, ever, at least in my opinion, ever had any of their players feel that way, where they're too good for this tournament. Yes, Mexico has had the B team for Gold Cup on occasion, but that's usually only if there's another competition going on that same season, or there's something else going on that same year. More often than not, man, Mexico takes every competition very much seriously. That's why they're the leading the ones with the most trophies and Gold Cups. That's why they're a few more years of Nations League. We don't know who ends up becoming the title, the one with the most trophy lifts. And why everyone has such faith in Mexico, why everyone believes Mexico is capable of doing big things, because they always, one, compete well in CONCACAF, because obviously that if you don't compete in CONCACAF, you can't make it to the World Cup. And then once again, they have this ability of punching above their weight. Once again, CONCACAF isn't viewed as a strong football confederation. It's definitely down in the bottom part. Obviously it's UEFA and CONMEBOL. And then the bottom part, it's up for debate. Maybe some people prefer African nations over CONCACAF, or even Asian countries over CONCACAF, and respectively so, because there's only like 4 countries that are even worth a note, versus Africa has Senegal, Morocco, Nigeria, and then Asia, Japan, Australia. Now people forget that Australia is technically in part of the Asian Confederation, but Mexico takes CONCACAF seriously because they know they need to beat this in order to move on to it. So, but once again, they do things right. They have players that play abroad, but they also have built their league and built their players where you do have players from Liga MX coming in and also punching above their weight and representing Mexico, because there's a pride in playing for Mexico. Like, mind you, this was considered not a good call up. A lot of people complained about this call up. I've heard a lot of people complain. I'm not making things up when I'm saying this. People were complaining about this call up. And look what they did. Like, despite, and I think that's the same thing for the B team notion. Whenever Mexico does the B team, they still compete. They still go far and either win the trophy or at least make it to the final. Because there is a pride in being a Mexican player, and they play with that pride, and that's why they're lifting the trophy, despite all the drama that's been going on with Mexico. They're able to come in, put in work, and they get the result. That's something the U.S. needs to pay attention to. That's all I'm saying. So congratulations, Mexico, for winning your first Nations League title. I'm sure not the last one either. So, like I said, man, as long as Mexico takes things seriously, man, they are going to be a force to reckon with, regardless of how bad the call-ups are viewed as, how many. Because there's and I know there's certain players that Mexico fans are necessarily tired of seeing. But if those players that you're tired of seeing are still being able to contribute in some form or fashion, I mean, hell, they call the coach that they have right now. He is as best representation of what the mindset should be in Mexico. So it makes the most sense. It should, Mexico, and it's funny how everyone overlooked Mexico. Everyone thought Mexico was not. Everyone thought Mexico was going to beat by Canada, and Mexico just said, "Fuck you, we're going to beat this game. We're going to win this stupid trophy," and they did it handedly. But yeah, so once again, congratulations to Mexico, and we should probably mention this. We'll mention it later. Oh, maybe before. Maybe before. Well, so just so your frame of reference, once again, I already recorded the U.S. men's national team rant before, and then freaking me and Jose doing the recap of episode 5 of MLS Onside. So at some point you're gonna hear a dog of the month. That's all I'm saying. Whether you already heard it or you didn't, I'm just saying this now because right now me and Edward are still trying to figure out who our dog of the month is. So it actually probably was on the MLS Onside discussion because this episode of MLS Onside was pretty mid. But anyways, congratulations to Mexico. Congratulations on lifting the Nations League. And we're going to go ahead and segue over to me complaining about the U.S. men's national team.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
All right. Since we just knocked out Nations League, just so you guys have a frame of reference, I did the Nations League before. I did it later on a later date, but obviously it's going to come on before. So this is literally fresh off of the 2-1 loss to Canada for USA. So we'll talk about the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, there was some changes from when we talked about the call-up. Obviously, certain players, Johnny Cardozo wasn't available, so they brought in Jack McGlynn. I think, I don't know who were the other names, but I know, so Anthony Robinson wasn't available, which I believe they brought, no, Marlon Fawcett was already on here, so they brought in Arston. They brought him in. They also brought in Brian Gutierrez, who didn't play. So, good call on that one. Once again, it's ridiculous that we did not call ups in the house. I think it's insane. But anyways, so obviously this is not going to be at all positive. This was a terrible call up. If you guys aren't fully aware, in the Nations League, obviously, well, we just recapped it, but the U.S. men's national team Nations League win as a 1-0 loss to Panama and a 2-1 loss to Canada in the third place game. Now, Hector, you're probably wondering, Hector, why do you care about that third place game? Well, it was against Canada, and you would like to be able to beat the team that your rival Mexico can beat, so which Mexico beat them handily, obviously, because we already recapped it. So yeah, embarrassing is the word that's going to be used this entire recap of the U.S. men's national team. All right, so the Panama game. It's 1-0 loss. The lineup was as follows. It was the 4-2-3-1 formation. We saw Matt Turner at goalkeeper. Musa played at the left back spot with the center back pairing being Chris Richards and Tim Ream, and Joe Scally being on the right side at the right back spot. Good, yeah. I really don't care right now. I'm sorry about that. Sorry for yawning. In the midfield, we had Tyler Adams and Tanner Tessman being the dual sixes in this 4-2-3-1 formation. Pulisic at least was labeled as the 10 for this one in the midfield. The forwards were McKennie, Josh Sargent, and Tim Weah. On the wings, the subs that were called up in this game was Jack McGlynn, Patrick Ockerman, and McKenzie. Mark McKenzie came in as a center back parent to come in at center back. Honestly, man, that Panama game, I think, one, you need to give credit to Panama. Panama stuck to the game plan. Panama, once again, in a competitive setting, was able to get a victory over the U.S. men's national team, which obviously, if you guys aren't fully aware, Panama was the reason why the U.S. men's national team got grouped in Copa America, and in the last Gold Cup, eliminated the U.S. men's national team to make it to the Gold Cup final that year, which they did end up losing to Mexico. So I think the moral of the story is, while yes, this U.S. men's national team looked very lackadaisical, looked very possession. Who cares about possession at this point? All those things, like, yeah, possession was in favor of you. Yeah, you had more opportunities to put in a goal. Obviously, you had the Josh Sargent offside goal. Josh Sargent, who we all thought was a goal, but actually just hit the sidebar. The post. They just weren't clinical. Like, yes, it's cool to have possession, but if your possessions don't have any substance, then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what you do, because at the end of the day is what you do with the ball, and literally that's what happened. That's literally how it ended. Because Panama, when they did get their opportunity, and they did put it in the back of the net, and that's when you have Waterman being able to celebrate. Let me see, was the player's name Waterman? I think it was. Yeah, Waterman able to score the winning goal, and then able to run up and celebrate with Thierry Henry, and having that awesome moment for him.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
Once again, I am not bashing Panama by any means. I think Panama came in with their strategy, and they knew once they got their opportunity, they were going to take it, and they did. That's why they won. It wasn't, on paper. This is probably something that everyone's going to keep saying. On paper, USA should have beat Panama, and you're probably right. But you know what? You can't be saying we should be beating Panama when Panama has beaten you 3 times in competitive settings. That at the end of the day, like, if it has happened in a consecutive amount of times, then it's no longer we should be beating Panama. At this point, Panama is an equal. I'm sorry. I mean, as much as you could, some people have a hard time believing that a Central American team can compete with the U.S. men's national team. Because once again, kind of talking about the people that went off on that stupid Instagram reel. At the end of the day, U.S. is not a football nation. It is not at all remotely a football nation. Football is probably the last. Is still near the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to sports in America. In Panama, it is not that case. I think baseball might be a close second, but football, soccer, however the hell you want to call it, is the sport in Panama. So once again, there's a passion for it. They have And obviously, in recent years, we have seen the progression in Panama. So, like at this point, when Costa Rica was considered an equal at one point when they were up there in the discussion. When they had their generation with a young Keylor Navas, and they had, I'm not gonna list all the players, but even at one point, it was CONCACAF was very much USA, Costa Rica, and Mexico. Those were the three nations. We weren't even talking about Canada. Canada was an afterthought, and that should even be even more alarming. Was Canada, who was very much an afterthought, has now progressed to not be part of the big three, which more and more the way this U.S. team plays. Maybe we shouldn't even consider them part of the big three. But Panama, I think with the progression that they've did perform better than Mexico and USA did in the Copa America. So for anybody to believe that Panama was beneath the United States, I think is ridiculous, because they have shown you that they have been better every single competition. They have shown you plenty of times that they have improved as a national team, to the point now that we're not talking about Costa Rica anymore. We're talking about Panama as being the better team coming from Central America. So and that was something that me and Edward talked about. We said it. We cannot take Panama lightly. Panama is a good team. This whole we should have beat Panama thing, that notion has gone way past the wayside, because now we have 3 consecutive chances in competitive settings where Panama has been able to get the better out of the U.S. men's national team. So whoever keeps coming up with this nonsense that the U.S. is better than Panama, maybe on paper, because there's more players playing in Europe from the United States than there is from Panama. But Panama has shown you that they are a better team. Culture-wise, they are a football nation. Maybe not up to the par of England and up to par with France, but they are a football nation nonetheless. And they have been playing with a really good group of players that have consecutively been progressing. Golkeeper, a prime example of a player that has been getting better and was in the last Gold Cup the player of the tournament, which I'm sure that Europe is probably the next step for him in his career. It is ridiculous for not only for American players, but for American fans to think that Panama is even remotely beneath them, because that is the reason why Panama won, was because everybody underestimated this Panama side, when many people have warned you to not underestimate this Panama team. And I think at the end, and I'm going way ahead of myself, because that's something that I'm going to mention about this entire embarrassment of a U.S. men's national team window. The next game, obviously, is the 2-1 loss to Canada. Showed some life, but really at the end, it wasn't. All right, the lineup was also once again the 4-2-3-1 formation. This time you had Matt Turner once again at goalkeeper. The back line was Joe Scally, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mark McKenzie, and Max Arfson was now the left back for this one. The midfield was McKennie and Adams being the dual sixes, and Pulisic once again being labeled at that 10 position. You could correct me if I'm wrong. I know I saw Diego Luna also labeled as the 10, but I think a lot of rotations happened throughout the game. And the forwards were Timothy Weah, Patrick Aguiman, and Luna. So Luna and Aguiman were essentially and Arfson were the big changes from the last, and obviously, Carter Vickers and McKenzie also being changes to it. The substitutes for this game was Marlon Fossey, Tanner Tesman, Yunus Musa, Gio Reyna, and Brian White. It was basically just Canada trying to catch up with Canada. I think both teams didn't necessarily play well. I don't think it was necessarily a good game in general. But Canada, obviously having more of a chip on their shoulder in some sense, it's becoming a rivalry. USA and Canada, it has become a rivalry. Obviously now with this year in hockey terms, obviously with the 4 nations, All-Star, whatever that was, but I know it was a very big talking point. USA and Canada being a rivalry. A lot of things are coming a lot of tension is becoming with USA and Canada, mainly because of obviously the whole Donald Trump talking about this being the 51st, whatever. Look, I'm not going to get into politics there, honestly, but that is a lot of tension has been coming up with that. Obviously, Jesse Marsh is being the prima donna that he is. He obviously has a lot against U.S. men's national, the U.S. U.S. soccer obviously took the Canada job, and I will say has done a lot of good things with his Canada team. This is a very talented Canada team. This is probably, once again, like I mentioned, not only at one point, it was USA, Canada, USA, Mexico, and Costa Rica. That was the teams in CONCACAF. Canada was not in that conversation, and Canada now is in that conversation. So that is props to this generation of Canadian players, but also just some of the good coaches that they have come in. And I mean, as much as you guys feel, however you want to feel about Jesse Marsh, he has helped Canada tremendously. Which, I mean, they did have also a very good Copa America. They went, along with Panama, went further than USA and Mexico. So once again, say what you want, but and I think that should be something that, if you're a U.S. men's national team fan and an L3 fan, is the fact that now we're letting Canada catch up to us, and that should very much piss not only USA fans but Mexico fans as well. But I'll tell you the difference between that, though. As critical as Mexican fans have been with the Mexican national team, and rightfully so, they know at the end of the day these guys are going to compete in CONCACAF. I mean, am I wrong? Many people would argue that on paper, Canada should have been beating Mexico. As a matter of fact, I had a lot of friends that told me how bad this Mexican call-up was. And they took care of business with Canada 2-0. It was never close. Now, obviously, I don't know right now. I don't know what happened with Mexico and Panama, but Mexico has shown that they are able to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Lately, I don't know if that's the same thing for the U.S. men's national team. To share my thoughts about this in general, it's an embarrassment. This was an embarrassment of a call-up. Like, no one, I mean no one for that U.S. men's national team camp should be proud of themselves of this call-up. Pochettino and that coaching staff should not be proud. The players are definitely not proud. I think things that I take away. Matt Turner. The goalkeeper spot needs to be now discussed. It should have been discussed a long time ago, but it needs to be discussed even more. The fact that we're confident that Matt Turner is still going to be a starting goalkeeper, despite the fact that he is not playing for his club, or doesn't play as much in his club in Crystal Palace. If you're Matt Turner right now, you need to start figuring out a way out. Find a club. Your next club better be a starting position. Whether it is staying overseas or coming back to the MLS, you need to get a starting position. You need to go to a team that needs a goalkeeper, and you need to become their starting goalkeeper and not look back. Who gives a crap what league you're playing in? Go somewhere you're going to play. Because honestly, I wouldn't have not been shocked if Zach Steffen started. I would have not been shocked if Patrick Schulte started. Like, this goalkeeper group is very much wide open. I mean, we got people now talking about Julian Ironstone. Julian Ironstone, who, by the way, plays for the B team of Brentford. And because he's doing really well right now with the U20 U.S. men's national team, who I believe Cochin's also with. But because now they're seeing Ironstone a little bit, people are like, man, maybe we should have called up this kid. I agree. But, obviously he plays for the B team. But still, like, we're realizing more and more that this goalkeeper position is very much wide open. And we need to start talking about, and which is crazy because we are literally a little bit over a year away from the World Cup, and we are not confident in the goalkeeper position. Center backs, still question marks. Obviously, we didn't see Anthony Robinson, we didn't see Tsuchino Des, so I can't really say too much about fullbacks. Midfield, I think obviously Johnny Cardoso. It sucked not having Johnny Cardoso, but It should, if Johnny Cardoso's not there, it should be Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie. I'm gonna be honest with you. The forward position is the front three is not as safe as I thought as everyone thinks it is. Tim Weah while he does have his moments, he also had a lot of rough moments. There was no one was necessarily good, in my opinion. No one is free from criticism at this point. I think Diego Luna when he played in the second game, he definitely looked like he was trying to put everything out on there, but unfortunately, no one else was showing that same kind of energy. And Gio Reyna is just a moron. That's all I gotta say. The yellow card was stupid. Yeah, I'm not happy, man. But I think the thing that's so embarrassing is the fact that no one took this competition seriously. Now, CONCACAF is the one in charge of finding a venue and all that stuff for this tournament, this competition. And you knew exactly what CONCACAF was doing when they chose Los Angeles, California. They chose LA because of the Mexican market, because they knew it was guaranteed to sell out because of the Mexican national team. As a matter of fact, the tickets were actually it was double header tickets. And unfortunately the last game wasn't the US men's national team game. It was the Mexico game. And you had to see those images of a very much empty SoFi Stadium because they weren't there to see the U.S. men's national team. They were there to go see El Tri, respectively so. People that are criticizing that the U.S. failed that part, look, I'll blame the U.S. for a lot of things, but that's a CONCACAF call. If CONCACAF really was trying to make it a fair and not even look, I'm gonna say this also, CONCACAF, pick another country. Pick another place to host tournaments. I get it that the U.S. has all the infrastructure and all this, but feature some other countries. Get some other countries some money. Why doesn't Mexico host the Gold Cup? Why don't we have, if the fact that you feel that maybe the venues aren't there for El Salvador or for Costa Rica or for Panama, make Central America the host. Make the Caribbean a host. Let's feature these other countries. Because let's have somebody else have some home field advantage for once. And honestly, if the U.S. had a say in any way of whoever was the hosting site, Columbus should have been directly the location, and it wasn't. But it's frustrating, man. It is frustrating. You at the end of the day, it's just no one takes this tournament seriously. The Nations League, say what you want, no one takes this thing seriously. No one wants to take it seriously, and that's how everyone's gonna shrug it off. Like, oh, wasn't a real tournament. Me and Edward talked about it. Yes, people feel their certain way about the Nations League, but this is an opportunity to win silver. This is an opportunity to showcase what you could do in a competitive setting. And they didn't want to do it. They didn't take this tournament seriously because they're like, oh, we won this 3 times in a row. Take it seriously. Every opportunity to show competitive matches is an opportunity to showcase the fans, not only current fans, but maybe prospecting fans, especially when the World Cup comes around, where there's like, I want a reason to root for this U.S. men's national team, and you know they want to see a winning product. At the end of the day, that's what everybody wants here in America, is to see a winning product, because if it's not a winning product, they don't want to support it. And you not taking Nations League, they don't know what people think about the Nations League. All they know is that this is a tournament. Mexico was in it and Canada was in it. They knew that. And now they know USA couldn't make it to the final because they lost to Panama. They don't know about Panama. Some people might not even know what Panama is. They know that USA lost to Panama, and now they know they lost to Canada. If you're an outsider, not a fan of soccer in general, but you know, come World Cup time, maybe you want to see what's going on with the U.S. and that's the latest news you heard. You're not going to give this team the light of day. And then for the people that are actually U.S. soccer supporters, they now have an awful taste, because it literally shows you guys don't give a flying, you know what. of anything. If you can't take this thing seriously, it just tells me that you're not going to take Gold Cup seriously. I shouldn't even be expecting guys for Gold Cup. I shouldn't be expecting a very good. I shouldn't expect to see the European players in Gold Cup. I should not expect. I would accept some sort of B team for Gold Cup, and that's gonna piss me off because we're not gonna take CONCACAF seriously, and that's what I hate that more than anything else is that you're in CONCACAF and you don't want to take a CONCACAF tournament seriously. Say what you want about Mexico. Yes, they put B teams out as well for CONCACAF Gold Cup, but guess what? Those guys play. Mexico understands CONCACAF. Mexico plays well in CONCACAF because they understand CONCACAF. The difference between USA and Mexico is that Mexico can at least punch above their weight. When it is Mexico versus Italy, Mexico versus Mexico's gonna put it out there. Mexico has beaten some of the better teams. Mexico beat Germany, not that back in 2018. Mexico shows you that they can win games. At the same time, still compete in CONCACAF. We need to stop underestimating these CONCACAF nations. We need to stop belittling CONCACAF. Because honestly, this is where it all started the frustration with U.S. soccer. All the frustration with U.S. soccer started with us belittling CONCACAF, belittling Trinidad and Tobago. Because of that, we didn't qualify for 2018. Stop underestimating CONCACAF. Stop underestimating these competitions. You need to, when it's a competitive match, it's a competitive match. Treat it as a competitive match. Take it seriously. Play to your best ability. Play with your best tactics available. And show, hey, this is what we can do in a competitive setting, regardless of who we're facing. And they didn't do that. Now I have no faith in Gold Cup. I don't. This team has not shown me any reason why I should have faith in them in the Gold Cup. That is a Mauricio Pochettino problem, but that is also a player problem. I think Thierry Henry made a really good fact that we keep looking at Christian Pulisic. That USA is trying to put so much on Christian Pulisic. And I've said this plenty of times on the podcast. Christian Pulisic isn't a captain. He's not a captain. He's your best player. I'm not disagreeing to that notion. Right now, he's your best player. But he's not your captain. Stop expecting him to act like a captain. Hope that he's going to come up big in big moments because he does do that. But stop this whole captain thing. He's not going to do everything. Not every great player is going to be a good captain. Not every good captain is a great player. And I know, and Thierry Henry said something along those lines. The word I would use for this U.S. men's national team call-up is embarrassing. When you think of the U.S. men's national team, teams from before, the 2002 team, the 2010 team, maybe not the 2010 team, but the 2010 team was not that bad. The 2002 team, not the 2016, 2010, even the 2014 team. Those guys weren't considered like the best. They had it. It was a good group of players. But the mentality was there. That's why they were able to go toe to toe with some teams. That 2014 team was in the group of death and came out of the group of death. They weren't the most talented team, but they played their balls off and advanced and gave Belgium a run for the battle of a lifetime. They lost. I know they lost, but it went to extra time. It was a battle. It was a grind, that game. That was where everyone respected Tim Howard. It's when everybody respected Clint Dempsey. This team, no one respects these players. Everyone says Christian Pulisic is bang average. Some people say he's trash. A lot. I think the term for a lot of these guys is bang average, mid, trash. There's no respect to these guys. Because if they're so good, shouldn't the U.S. men's national team be good? And even despite Greg Berhalter, despite the coaches, they should be able to excel and have moments of brilliance, and they don't. They don't. That's why when you hear us talk about this current U.S. men's national team, if they had to play against the 2014 U.S. men's national team, they wouldn't win. And I agree. Now, granted, they're probably the more talented roster, but they're not the better team. And that's kind of the issue right now. Is this is not the golden generation? Stop calling this the golden generation. It has been proven that they are not the golden generation. This is just the first generation of players that have experienced some sort of youth track. Obviously, academy, and then playing professionally. Like, this isn't guys that are playing college soccer, and it's not like that. It's not that. This is, and that's the problem. That this is the first team that has experienced some sort of player pathway, and you're like, oh, there's gonna be so many more guys that are gonna be starting making their debuts at 18, 17, 19 years old. That there's gonna be so much more. We're gonna have more guys playing for some good teams in their 20s, starting in their 20s, right? Who would have thought we'd have players starting for Juventus and AC Milan? I never thought about it. Every time we heard of a U.S. men's national team player playing for a European team, it's usually a mid to low table side. I mean, Tim Howard, prime example. Yes, he did get signed by Manchester United, but then went to Everton and was a career player at Everton. Everton's not a top 6 team. Is not the top 6 teams of the English Premier League. And all the other guys that played in the Bundesliga. I mean, Alexi Lalas played in AC Milan. He wasn't a starter. These guys are. They're really starting. Granted, AC Milan Juventus is probably not the best time right now to be an AC Milan Juventus fan right now, but still, like, these are big clubs. These are big opportunities. Christian Pulisic was playing for Chelsea at one point. Aside from injuries and just not being able to live up to the ridiculous hype that many Americans have given him, like the LeBron James of soccer notion. At the end of the day, these guys are more talented than any of the U.S. men's national teams before them. The issue is that they're just not a good team. Because once again, in matches like this, like, yes, Nations League may not be looked at as a respectable tournament. I know this is some sort of thing that FIFA created just to not have international friendlies. But if you're in it, you might as well try to make the most of it. And the fact that these guys don't, it's gonna be a rough couple of days till the next U.S. men's national team call up, because this is just gonna be a stain to U.S. soccer right now. It is a stain. It is a massive, massive stain, and I'm not looking forward to it. But all right, obviously, guys, no players of the week. We do not count international break for players of the week, so no players of the week this week. Games to watch this weekend. We have in Mexico, we have Necaxa taking on Querétaro, Toluca versus Pachuca, and America versus Tigres. And MLS, we have Inter Miami versus Philadelphia Union, 2 teams that are doing fairly well in the Eastern Conference, so that should be a good matchup there. In the Netherlands, we got PSV versus Ajax and Club Brugge versus Anderlecht in the Belgium League. In Liga, we got Strasbourg versus Lyon and AS Monaco versus Nice. In the Bundesliga, Borussia Mönchengladbach versus RB Leipzig, and Eintracht Frankfurt versus VfB Stuttgart. In the Serie A, we got Juventus versus Genoa, and Fiorentina versus Atalanta. In La Liga, we got Getafe versus Villarreal and Real Betis versus Sevilla. A good derby right there, especially if you guys aren't fully aware with a lot of things in La Liga. And the Premier League, there is a lot of FA Cup matches, so some win or go home matches up over there in the English Premier League, or FA region. But all right. Yeah. So that is my thoughts on that. But yes, obviously those aren't all the matches that are happening this weekend. But it is a good beginner's guide if you're looking to get into football. We're gonna take one more break and then we will recap this show.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to episode 211. Give a shout out to Jose Tellez, man. Thank you for coming on to talk about episode 5. Yeah, obviously this episode is probably not the best episode because of just, especially if you're a U.S. men's national team fan, but maybe it was much needed to be said. But check out Belly Up Sports, man. BellyUpSports.com. Follow them on Instagram and the X at Belly Up Sports. Lots of great articles. Lots of things are happening at Belly Up, so go ahead and check them out. See what's going on over there at Belly Up Sports. And also, you heard Jose Tellez, Golz TV. Listen, check out their website, golz.tv. It is free right now to subscribe over to Golz TV. It's a great streaming platform of soccer content made here in the US of A. And some international stuff as well. Also, Eric Winalda's show, Unleashed, is available there as well. So check them out. Golz, golz.tv, golz.tv. Also follow them on Instagram at golz.tv, golz.tv, and on the X at golz_TV, golz_TV. And if you guys like the intros and outros for this podcast, well, they are made by our producer, Roosevelt Spencer. He is the namesake of our Player of the Year award, and we love him a lot. And if you guys love the beats and you need some beat work yourself, well, hit him up on Instagram at ThatGuyDope. Once again, at ThatGuyDope, and he will take great care of you like he always does with us. We guarantee it. But with all that being said, man, thank you so much for listening to 211. Catch you next week for 212. Take care, guys.